Never back down, never what?
Never give up.
Never back down, never what?
Never give up.
Let's go! Let's go!
Yeah, boy!
Hey guys, welcome into Rhythm Fantasy Sports. We're back again with another college spotlight. We got Jacob Cowling from Arizona Wildcats on the stage today. Yeah, it's been just a minute or so. We're just it's just been a minute. We have just been all kinds of just stuff going on. I've been working, Eli's been working. So I mean, we've been taking a bunch of notes and getting stuff ready, prepped up for the next couple guys on our list to get done. We have a few other things we will be actually kind of talking about the Senior Bowl as well too. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, make sure you guys join our Discord. The link will be in description below. Make sure you join all of our audio platforms, Spotify, Google, and Apple, I think. Yeah, which one of those, whatever all I just said. Make sure you follow all those. All those things will be in the description below too as well. So, but yeah, how's it going?
Well, kind of been dying since about yesterday. Woke up yesterday, scratchy throat. Got through my route, and then as you can tell, yeah, I'm playing hurt today. But you know, we're gonna get Jacob Cowling in, do a little spotlight on him. Kind of putting the scroll at the bottom some of the results from the Shrine Bowl and Senior Bowl. We might do a later stream as regards to those two games, maybe combine them and kind of give our thoughts, and maybe do, I love to do my little top 5 lists, my little top 5 graphics, and Jamie likes to give a synopsis of the game. So we might end up doing that. Kind of give you guys whose stock is rising, who's falling from that. But we're going to focus on Jacob Cowling, and like he was saying, we got a couple more players coming up. So we'll get to that when we do. I can't predict when I'm going to be sick. And then when I got back Friday night, I get back late from my route, my other job, and my truck wouldn't start. So I was like, shit. So I ended up taking a work truck or a work van to get around the last couple days. Ended up being my distributor and my rotor, so my distributor cap. So I ended up replacing those, and boom, charge the battery up, and I'm good to go. So I'm back on the road. So and so are we. So we hope to maybe get. Yeah, I know, shocking.
I know, right?
Get some content up as long as I don't die. As long as squeeze me. As long as I don't die, we'll try to get. Try to get, like LA Knight says. We'll try to get at least one more college spotlight, up to you guys within probably the next few days, honestly, because I think we're rearing to go. We haven't done this in a minute, so I think me and Jamie are ready to get rolling on some of these receivers and skill position guys.
Yeah. We I also want to shout out real quick to the guys, to all of our all of our guys that are on YouTube. I put up a community post there on who you guys want to see next, and there was at least about a good 20 some odd votes on Ricky Pearsall from the Gators. So we will have him in the works for you guys.
Ricky
Pearsall. Yep. So we appreciate all the votes. So we put it out there. We heard you guys. So stay tuned. I will be in the work in progress of getting all of his stuff together for you, and hopefully we'll have that out soon as well. So make sure you stay tuned to our Discord. So the link will be in the description. So when that video will be posted. So I suppose, shall we get into a little bit of a Jacob Cowling?
It's coming.
Is it coming? Let's get going.
I think we should. Roll, please. Get it. Yeah. All right. So Arizona's had some skill position guys that have hit. I mean, the most famous probably Rob Gronkowski. Anybody heard of him? So they've had some weapons in the past. This guy is an underrated He's an underrated weapon. I think at the next level, hence why we're doing this prospect spotlight here. I think this guy's going to hit. Jacob Cowing, and I'll just start off first because sometimes I wait until the middle of my rant before I get into the comp. He reminds me a lot of Khalil Shakur, and I'll explain why, in a few minutes here. But I would say I base this off of a couple different things. It's not just like, oh, he looks like him on the field. Similar size. Khalil Shakur is about an inch taller and weighs a little bit more. But, I mean, in the NFL, Cowing will pack on an extra 10, 15 pounds. Everybody does. So I'm not worried about that. They're both bad blockers. Both got, the drops sometimes. Both have bad hands at times. Both are very versatile. So I would say that's and Khalil Shakur had over 600 yards this past season, with Josh Allen slinging the ball. So I think, by either rookie year or second year, I think Jacob Cowing will be at that level. And, when it comes to the NFL, I think he could definitely be over a 600-yard receiver very, very quickly. Draft Buzz, that's kind of the place we've been going to. I used to use PFF and James Source in the past, but now, I like Draft Buzz because they do a bunch of different players from a bunch of different size schools. They've got players from the past. Like that's how I found the draft prospect profile from 2 years ago from Khalil Shakur. And these guys are very similar in that aspect too. Cowing, a West Coast guy, went to a smaller school, UTEP, before he transferred. Khalil Shakur, Boise State. So yeah, these guys have a lot in common. So I'll kind of close up on that point. But yeah, Draft Buzz ranking number 99 overall. He's the 21st receiver. So it's be about a 3rd round pick, maybe early 4th round pick, somewhere in there. So him and Shakur are going to be very similar, probably, early 3rd day picks, possibly end of the 2nd day. Depends on what he does at the combine. He could have helped his stock had he played in the Senior Bowl, but Cowing ended up, missing that on Saturday, so didn't end up playing in that. Mentioned his size a little bit earlier. He's a senior, runs a 4.4 40 time and there's some blazing receivers. There's some guys that run 4.3 or 4.34s. So 4.4, that's not bad. That's not a bad time at all. His stats from past year, 2023, kind of down in terms of the average. Only had 848 yards. It's a little over 9 yards a catch. He did catch 90 balls, but the major step that he made was 13 touchdowns. And that catches our attention. When we first did the spotlight on Malik Neighbors, what caught our attention was all the touchdowns. I think Malik had about 15, 17, something like that.
Oh yeah, I think
He
he
scored
quite a bit. Oh, and I think he froze. Oh snap! Crackle pop. No, this is not good at all. Yeah. I guess we'll just wait just a couple minutes here, just in case. I'm not sure what happened there. Unfortunately, we have a few technical difficulties. I know he has a few computer issues every now and then, and hopefully his computer isn't acting up. But yeah, yeah, he bounced out here, probably just having some issues. I think he'll be back here in just a moment. But yeah, just to kind of kind of just um, reiterate on Jacob Cowling. I looked into him a little bit too as well, and I actually have. I know Eli has Kahal Shakir as one of his comps, and I have somebody else that he kind of represents to my liking. He almost seems to be almost very similar, but very differently in play style and whatnot. So I just once Eli kind of gets back here, I'll just kind of hold off on my comp. So hey, look, he's back. He's back again.
It's coming. Me and I just saw Jamie a couple days ago. As you guys know, we live in different cities, but I'm up where he's at for work a couple days a week. So Me and Jamie were talking about that. I gotta get a tower. If anybody, I'm not gonna do any stupid Kickstarter or anything. I'm not gonna beg for money here. But if anybody wants to donate a tower and a screen, let me know, because this laptop is the drizzling shits. It really is. My connect, I can't even go directly in, for my modem. So if any guys are wondering, why is this guy always cut out? Why is this guy always? Because that's why. It's nothing wrong with the internet. The computer is shit. It's garbage. Anyway, so I was going crazy with Jacob Cowing there for a minute. I'll review what I said, because I don't know when I cut out. I'm guessing it was probably 2 minutes ago or so.
Yeah.
He Khalil Shakur was the comp. He's probably going to be a late third, early fourth round pick, somewhere in there. Runs a 4.40. I think that his 2022 was actually probably a better statistical year, although he had 6 less touchdowns. He could have helped himself in the Senior Bowl, didn't play there, and a lot of guys missed it. And like I said, we're going to get into that in the future. I won't give too much away from the game, but he could have helped himself a lot, because there were a lot of big names missing, and he could have popped. And there was a few good quarterbacks playing that could have slung him the ball for sure. In terms of, I mentioned this earlier when I was doing the comp with Khalil Shakur. Needs to work on his blocking. His blocking's terrible. He gets a case of the drop sometimes. Has trouble getting off the line of scrimmage sometimes. But like I said, he's versatile. He's got some speed to him. So he's very much in line of like kind of these like scat. I don't think he'd work with the 49ers. Their receivers, Debo and Ayuk and Kittle, a lot of those guys. They do a ton of blocking. Place like San Fran, but I think I bring up Khalil Shakur, but Demario Douglas, Jaden Reed. I mean, that might be that Jaden Reed might be the next Packer 1,000-yard stud receiver next year. So we'll wait and see on that. But Jaden Reed was a comp that Draft Buzz gave. Marvin Mims from Denver. So a couple other guys too. But yeah, definitely if he's going to make it to the next level, got to work on his blocking. The hands, you can't. I don't know what you can do about that. I mean, it is what it is. It's just basically get the ball to this guy in space, because he's versatile.
Yeah.
He can be a slot guy. I think he can be a deep threat. I think you can pretty much put him anywhere, and that's why I look at like Demario Douglas, because that's, to me, that's like a very, he was drafted in 3rd round, versatile, same thing. And you can put him in the slot. He can do deep stuff. So, just get the ball to the guy in space. He's not going to be quite my man Chris Olave, but close. Let's see what Jay's got to say about this. Sorry for cutting out. Shouldn't have to apologize for this damn laptop all the time.
There we go. I was trying to get our set up here just right. But yeah, we're good. So yeah, I think it's just kind of nice when we kind of recap. I like putting information out there, so you guys know. So you guys know what we're talking about. You're like, oh, okay. I mean, it just simplifies everything, and it kind of gets everybody in tune. So I mean, Jacob Cowan, he's actually been in a college for at least 5 years now. He started his career out with UTEP, transferred to Arizona, as you can kind of tell. This guy is actually it doesn't, he's like a 100-yard monster over here. I mean, if you look at it, when he first got it with UTEP, a couple 100-yard games in 2020, he had 4 of them. 2021, he had 8. When he transferred, it dipped a little bit, but his previous last 2 years, he had 1,000 yards. So this year, I mean, he didn't quite hit 1,000 some odd yards, but I'm sure with some other talents that they had at Arizona, that kind of dipped a little bit, because they actually have another guy from Arizona, which I can't remember the running back name offhand, but he was there too as well, and I think his name was. I have to take a gander here real quick. Sorry, guys. I have to look at my notes here real quick. Dang it. Well, it's probably not on my notes here, but I know he was another kid from Arizona that was actually there too as well. I thought he was entering the draft, but maybe not. But either way, this kind of gives you a good gives us all a good idea. And I do have a comp for him as well. But overall, his fantasy outlook here,
Oh,
I don't know how many
Jonah Coleman. Jonah
Jordan
Coleman
Coleman.
is the
I thought there was another one too as well. There was another guy from
Jonah
Arizona. Maybe
Coleman.
it
Yeah,
was,
he's their feature back.
yeah. Maybe maybe there was a backup or
It's okay.
there's second running back too. They had there was a guy from Arizona too as well. They had another one too as well from Arizona. That
No,
kind of
you're thinking of the receiver McMillan.
maybe. Oh, that yeah, yep,
McMillan was
yep,
their leading receiver, and
yep.
then Cowing was like their second. Was like their second leading
Gotcha,
receiver. Yep.
gotcha. I have him somewhere in in my notes somewhere too as well. But either way, I know if some of you guys don't play college fantasy football, this is like this is my I kind of dug into his fantasy, outlook. Played 13 games. You can see 180, 800 some odd yards. He only averaged about maybe 9.4. No, it was actually more. I probably messed that up. Sorry, guys. His average is probably a little bit more than 9.4. Through his whole, through this whole season. But he had 13 touchdowns. Had a couple of rushing attempts in there. Just not too many, but um, fantasy point wise, 251 fantasy points in a PPR setting, so you can kind of give a small outlook of what he could maybe do in the NFL if he had the opportunity to. I mean, he could probably be a good number two somewhere if he lands in the perfect spot. It all comes down to landing spots too. And once that does happen, stay tuned for our summer editions of all the divisional breakdowns. We'll be covering. So we'll be talking about Jacob Khan if he does land somewhere. We will be talking about him this summer. So stay tuned for that. So you should subscribe to our channel. So if you want to know more about Jacob Cowan and our overall thoughts where he might be landing, by which team, so stay tuned and jump in a Discord too as well. Um, so let's just kind of
Well,
look at his over.
I was gonna say before he gets into the fantasy points there, I was gonna say with his weight quick, it's fluctuated too. That's another thing. Like if people are like, oh well, it's anywhere between like 170 175. He was at 165 when he first got like to UTEP,
Yeah,
a few years ago. So he has been putting on a little bit of weight. So I think he will NFL. I think he will get up to 185 ish. So he'll put on the 10 pounds when he gets in the league, which will help too.
yeah,
That'll help with
yeah.
getting off
It's
the line of scrimmage. I would assume.
Yeah, but pretty much once we get to like once the NFL Combine happens, then we'll know like okay, well his guy is this much, this is his, So when you see all these different sites, you're kind of like, well, one might just say this, one might say that, so it all kind of varies honestly. But this is his fantasy outlook when he for the Pac-12, 200-yard games this year. It was fifth in the that division, both with the 13 touchdowns. So I just like kind of breaking it down a little bit. That's just the way it is. Kind of like, well, how did he stand out in his own conference and whatnot? Was he an impact player for that team? And he was just from the looks of it, he was a go-to guy for Arizona, because they had Clayton Tune down there. He was tossing him the ball and whatnot, So I mean, Clayton Tune was one of his favorite wide receivers, I'm sure, before they had McMillan down there. But pretty much, a top 15 guy in the Pac-12 division, which is not bad. And then he actually had 4 touchdowns in week 6 when they played USC. So that was one of his probably his highlighted games there when they went back and a lot of people were looking back at that game because at that time I believe USC was ranked when they did play them, if I remember correctly. And then they in the Alamo Bowl he had a 100-yard game in that game there, and then pretty much you know 11 out of 14 games, you can kind of say he averaged about almost 50 yards per game without having like a few 100-yard games in there. So you kind of get an idea of, okay, well, what we can expect, maybe fantasy wise. Okay, well, he could be a wide receiver 3 for us going down the road, but it's kind of like, well, maybe 50 yards, maybe a touchdown this week or that week. Maybe he'll have a 100-yard game in a different week. So these are just kind of things that I would kind of take a look at and kind of put my perspective on. You know what I mean? So Pac-12 conference, they had Roma
I thought
Dunze.
I heard Clayton Tune, but I was
He
like,
did.
isn't that the?
Yes, Clayton Tune actually he
I was
played at
like,
Arizona.
well, I was gonna say he played that trash that trash game he had for the Cardinals. Yeah, that trash game he had for the Cardinals this year. I'm like, yeah, he looked like a college quarterback.
Yeah,
He looked like a damn
yeah.
college quarterback.
Yeah,
He,
it was funny. Yeah. But this was just kind of an outlook. Jacob Cowling. He had guys at Rome. He was playing up against Roma Dunze. Troy Franklin, Tez Johnson from Oregon. So and his other teammate, McMillan too, was there as well. So you can kind of give or take. I mean, he finished pretty much finished top 5 in that category in his Pac-12 conference, anyway. So all right, let's get into so nationally, kind of the overall Rome, neighbors. A lot of these guys, as you can see, on the graphic here, a lot of these guys got the draft logo next to them, so a lot of these guys will be who he's up against. Going into the draft this year. So I mean, yeah, as we can all see, it's like, well, okay, he will be maybe a third round guy, and could be a late flyer for us guys in dynasty or redraft too as well. Um, but I think that was kind of it with kind of that all kind of just fantasy outlook there. But I know you were kind of saying, I'll give you my comp after I kind of get into what I thought. I mean, for me, he's kind of like a deep threat, just kind of overall. He can go deep. He can actually do some of the like intermediate catches too as well. I mean, I know you said he kind of not doesn't have great hands, but I was kind of seeing something a little bit differently. I mean, he's the player I'm going to comp to. You're gonna be like,
he doesn't.
interesting. I know from what I was seeing, I didn't see any. I didn't kind of get into like some of the drop stuff or anything like that. How many ball drops or how many targets he had. And if anybody knows, I like to find a resource that shows a lot of these college guys targets. Because what from what I've been trying to find, I haven't been able to find how many targets each person gets. So if anybody knows, please comment down below, please. I appreciate that. Um, but far as that, like his route running, is not bad, but it can be worked on a lot. It can be worked on a little bit more when he gets in the into an NFL team. But his foot skills is not bad. But when he does catch a ball, he can make defenders miss pretty easily. He can make it's kind of like those intermediate catches where he can, pretty much kind of do almost a slant, but kind of do an outrun where he can kind of catch some of these balls. And he's actually good at, on the run catches. I was kind of when Clayton Tune was there, with some of the catches he was making, kind of slant on the run style kind of catches. I mean, he was blowing defenders away, making people miss. Um, just these little short dump offs, just kind of like what some of these running backs would get these little short dump offs and whatnot. So I mean, kind of similar what you would think, almost kind of like a running back, but he's not a running back; he's a wide receiver. Um, but he's got the ability to, his, pretty much yak yards, after the catch. I mean, he's got that capabilities to him from what I saw, which is a good thing for us because we want all the yards we can get in fantasy football, right?
Yeah.
So
but those are the what's
you
that?
kind of so I was gonna say you kind of have him more in the Jordan Addison category. Then I don't think he'll be
Yeah,
as good on the next level, but you kind of have him more as like a Jordan Addison versus I have him more of a kind of a scat slot guy that can kind of versatile. So I mean, I think that's a nice range though. If maybe high end he is Jordan Addison. I mean, that's asking a lot. Jordan Addison's a stud, and then maybe low end like more Khalil Shakur or some guy, maybe a 500 to 700 yard receiver in the NFL. So it's like that's a nice spectrum. Just kind of hearing you
yeah,
talk there, that's kind of what a vibe I was getting.
yeah. So when you hear my comp, you'd be like, "Oh, now that makes sense." But yeah, it's kind of like his, he's kind of get those little dump offs and stuff like that. I mean, I wasn't really thinking Jordan Addison, but I mean, yeah, I mean, it's pretty could be pretty damn close to that. Um, but yeah, just kind of just seeing what I saw, with the foot skills and just being able to be a deep threat, kind of intermediate, is not a bad thing at all. But my comp to Jacob Cowing is actually Tank Dell.
Ooh.
Yeah. So
Ooh.
I'm like, I was sitting there and I was just like, just watching. I'm like, Arizona is kind of more a reputable team. You kind of hear about them a little bit more, but it's kind of like Houston's kind of a smaller team. You don't hear about them all too much unless somebody really pops out. And I'm like, dude, this guy looks super, it's like almost similar playing style. And Tank Dell came to mind. And I actually went back and actually looked at some Tank Dell, highlights. And I'm like, they're almost similar. They were using their, especially get down to the red zone, these little short dump offs, kind of cut in and touchdowns and kind of these little toss to, kind of these in and out routes kind of toward at the end zone for the red zone, anyways. Tank Dell was doing the same damn things when they got down to the red zone. Same exact plays. So I'm like, dude, these are they're almost similar, but Cowan just an inch taller than him. So if you think about this, Cowan he's been there for 5 years. Tank Dell was only in there for like 3. So Cowan put up so his total career, he put up 4,477 yards, 33 touchdowns. Tank Dell, he put up 3,155 yards, 32 touchdowns. So if you look at their fantasy outlook or career wise, very similar. They had just Cowan had one more touchdown than him, played one more year. I mean, if Cowan didn't play one more year, these guys would have the exact same profile. Cowan had 1,300 more yards than Dell. Played one more year. So very similar. Very similar. That's my and your camera froze too.
Of course it did.
But
No,
yeah.
I try to, and that Jamie tries to do it from the college fantasy perspective because he does the college fantasy and PPR and so you kind of get like both sides of it. My end of it is more of opinion and like who I think because I'm worried about my main I guess my main thing is like the next level, like where if this guy ends up like Pittsburgh, he's a better version of Calvin Austin to me, so some guy like
Yeah.
that, he could fit that kind of a role, be a really good number. It depends on if Deontay Johnson leaves or not. Like if he went to Pittsburgh, he could be there a really good number 3 there. Minnesota, I know he very similar to Jordan Addison, but maybe they can make use of him there because that's been reported that the Vikings are interested in him.
Yeah.
And if I were to put in a third team, Dallas, I think Cowboy, because Brandon Cooks is getting up there in years. Brandon
Oh
Cooks
yeah.
is kind of, and I know CD works out of the slot sometimes too. So I think you can find some use there. I think he'd be better than Turpin and any of these other trash guys you guys have as your 4th, 5th receiver. I think you could definitely step into, and Cowboys are going to have to, they're probably going to have to re-up Dak. They're probably going to have to sign a few, Micah Parsons for sure. So they're gonna have to shell out some bucks. They got to get some cheap labor. So I think if you were to ask me, gun to my head, Pittsburgh, Minnesota, Dallas would be three good landing spots for Jacob Cowing. But I'm glad Jamie puts the statistics up there for the because 20 years ago it would have been different with college statistics. It would have been they didn't translate as much. But now with the transfer, like, okay, a guy had 1,500 yards at a smaller school or 1,500 yards at a Power 5. That might not translate in the NFL. Maybe he'll be a 300 yard out of the league in 3-year guy. But it's very similar. They're very similar games now with the way college and NFL. They're like PB and J now versus what they use, oil and water like they used to be. So these are comparable stuff. I mean, Jacob Cowing could step in. Like I said, that's asking a lot to to have him score 13 touchdowns in the NFL. He scores 13 touchdowns in the NFL as a receiver. He'll be at least a Pro Bowl level guy. I mean, so, but we gave you a couple. I gave you a couple. Jay gave you a couple. Like, I just, I'm guessing his rookie year. And we'll get, like Jay was saying at the beginning of the stream, we'll get into that more in the summertime when we officially have a team for Jacob Cowing. And, we get a combine number, like he's officially measured in it. Maybe he's shorter than we thought. Maybe he's 5'10", 176 pounds or something. So we'll see for sure. But I think he's a free agent. If I were to guess for your redraft or your dynasty league, I don't think he's going to be drafted. And he, just like Tank Dell, there were a lot of 12-team leagues that Tank Dell was not taken. I guarantee it. That Tank Dell, and that's a good. I hadn't even thought of Tank Dell. That was a good comp that Jay put out there. I hadn't even thought of Tank Dell.
Yeah,
Tank Dell was, and a lot of people look stupid because they didn't jump. And Tank Dell popped in the preseason. He gave everybody the indications. Hey, I'm going to be a stud. I'm going to be a stud number 2 receiver. And nobody listened. So Jacob Cowing, it'll be, we're just giving our, February 4th opinion of this as to like. I mean, we'll see what he does in the preseason. If he's a 4th round pick by the Steelers, maybe he beats out. Maybe they release Deontay Johnson, and maybe him and Pickens are the 2 starting receivers day one, just like Nico Collins and Tank Dell with Houston. So we don't know. So, but if I were to guess right now, if you're more in dynasty redraft, he won't be drafted. So, keep an eye out.
I think in dynasty he will be drafted. I think. In Dynasty, for sure. If people are paying attention, in Dynasty, yes. Redraft, probably not so much. The people that are not really dedicated all too much, probably not. They probably even heard of this guy. They probably won't even hear this guy until he's like got drafted. They'll be like, "Oh, who's this guy?" And it'll be like, "Us guys, we already covered him. We kind of already know his skill sets and whatnot, So us in Dynasty will be like, "Well, dude, hell, I might even draft the guy, wherever he lands, because I'm kind of liking the Tank Dell vibe. So, hey, that's just me though. But I think that
Yeah,
is there anything else you want
if an
to
auction,
go ahead?
I was gonna say an auction league for sure. He comes up, but he's if he's in an auction league, Jay, and he's like a buck. You sign me up. Yeah, absolutely. I would take him. That's just I'm going off the average person that doesn't. I'm going off the average person that doesn't know who the hell Jacob Cowing is. Doesn't know that he's a 13 touchdown receiver from Arizona, that he had a great year with UTEP in 2021. And a lot of and one more point, a lot of these smaller school guys wouldn't have been they would have been late round, undrafted free agents 10 years ago. But because of the transfer portal, which we love, we're both in favor of it. It's been nothing but great for college football. A guy like this, who, let's say he's an early 4th round pick. He wouldn't have been drafted 10 years ago. He would have had to work his way up on, onto a practice squad, onto a team. And it would have been, you wouldn't have had him possibly starting by week 10 of his first season, right? You would never. Because, small, who the hell, UTEP, I was looking this up, Jay. UTEP, I don't think they've ever had a double-digit winning season. I'm being serious. I think their most wins ever, it's like, they've been around since the 1930s. I think UTEP is, 8 or 9 wins as their all-time. And so the fact that this guy, and in the old days, he would have stayed at UTEP for 4 or 5 years. He would have had to. He'd been like, okay, well, if I go to somewhere else, maybe I don't play. Love the fact that he went to Arizona, tore it up for 2 years, was the 19th rated, fantasy receiver in college, and the FBS level last year. We saw, he was toe to toe with these big, Rome Odunze, 1st round pick, Troy Franklin, probably, late 2nd round pick, even his own teammate McMillan. I mean, these are some heavy hitters. He was standing right next to, and he didn't drop off at all. So, that was just my final thoughts. I know I was kind of scattered brain on some of this stuff. I'm kind of sick. My internet cut out. So cut me some slack.
Yes.
Yeah, I gave you 3 teams. I gave you 3 comps. I gave you Khalil Shakir, Demario Douglas, and then Jay brought up Tank Dell. We'll go with that. Jordan Addison. Yes. I guess Jordan Addison, Demario Douglas, and Khalil Shakir would have been my 3 comps. So we gave you 3 comps. I gave you 3 teams. So at this point, nobody's got any excuses on Jacob Cowing. It's like, if you don't know about him, go watch some of his highlights. And Jay too. I was gonna say, unless you're religiously watching Pac-12 football, most people are just gonna see the highlights. And so I was, and I did I'm not saying Jay didn't research. Jay did a lot of research, but like where I saw the drops at, it's the targets, and he was saying that too. Like they do a terrible job in college football putting their, because you're looking at their stat charts or their game logs, and you never see targets on any of these college guys. Because we just see, he had 9 catches, 170 yards, 2 touchdowns. Looks like a great game, right? Well, what if he was targeted 17 times, and what if he had 4 drops? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
That's not a very good day. So
Yeah, no.
So I mean, and that's in fairness to anybody. In fairness to anybody looking that up, like, college football is terrible about putting out the target, and targets were, that's kind of in the fantasy community. Targets have kind of taken off the last probably 5 years or so. Like targets is 10 years. Targets is a major thing. That's where we base a lot of our stuff off of. How much is this guy targeted for, projections, and what's his value going to be 4 weeks from now, 6 weeks from now, a season from now. It's not enough. My little rant. I think I need a Kleenex.
Yeah, no, that's about right. Because I mean, I like to, because I was looking like, well, because our next guy coming up, Javon Baker, and I'm like, because he has a little bit different story, and I'm like, well, and I was actually glad I kind of keep some old, college magazines around and try to like pinpoint why is he doing this or that, and so it's just some of those things. I'm like, okay, well, I like to know how many dang targets this guy's getting. But trying to search around, trying to find some of that stuff is kind of like, I'm sure there's some premium sites that might have some of that stuff, but I don't, I like to try to find stuff that's readily available quickly while we do a lot of this stuff, so I can get my own opinionated on, okay, well, this guy might be this or this or that. So, but yeah, we're kind of running out of time here too as well. So we don't want to kind of we want to keep these kind of short and crisp to the point. So, but stay tuned, everybody. We will be kind of getting into our next couple guys here. Well, Javon Baker, and then Ricky from Florida will be getting into into him as well. And then we'll have our recap on Shrine Bowl and and the Senior Bowl as well. So stay tuned for all that. Make sure you guys are in our Discord. I'll be I'll share some of that stuff in there as well when that stuff does get posted. And make sure you subscribe and like to our videos. And that's the only way you'll find out about our content. I appreciate everybody that's been subscribing to our channel too as well. We appreciate all the views that we've been getting here lately. So we want to make sure everybody is happy, pleased, and we want to work for you guys. So let us know too as well. So make sure you join our make sure you follow our audio stuff on Apple, Spotify, and Google Play too as well. There's other smaller outlets out there that have been carrying our stuff.
And for next time, try not to be sick.
Right?
New computer, anybody?
Right?
Help,
and
help.
He's froze again. And he's back
Help.
again. All right, guys.
Doctor.
All right, guys.
Done it.
Well, we'll catch you guys next time here. So from Out of Rhythm, I'm Jamie. That's Eli. We'll catch you guys next time on our Javon Baker, Ricky Pearsall, and our Senior Bowl and all that content coming around the corner too as well. So stay tuned for that next time, guys, and we'll catch you guys later. I'm Jamie. That's Eli. We're out of here.